very good morning, Hawaii. Aloha and welcome to the 7 o'clock hour on this Aloha Monday morning. Glad you're with us here. News Radio, 830 KHVH. As you know, it is time for the SHOPO hour, and delighted that the fellas are in studio. I'm going to start with Brother Steve Keogh and wish you aloha.
Rick, good morning, brother. Always happy and grateful to be here with you and your listeners.
And thank you very much indeed. Brother Mark Critchio, aloha, and welcome back into studio.
I'm back. Good morning. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday. And Brother Steve, please reintroduce brother coming back for another visit with us.
Happy to do that. Yeah, Honolulu Nick has taken some time off, and in his place we have his vice chair, John Fry. Just a reminder, we have a state board, and then each county has a chapter board. John would be the number 2 for the Honolulu chapter. He's Honolulu Nick's vice chair, and we're happy to have him. Morning, John.
Good morning. Always a pleasure.
And welcome back. Welcome back. Hope things are well.
Everything's great.
Love to hear that. Listen, we'll just jump right on in. You mentioned before about chapters. As SHOPO Vice President, would you mind commenting on, anybody jump on in, what are the neighbor island chapters, and can we cite maybe some priorities, events, movement, news pertaining to the other chapters?
Sure. So we have 4 counties. Each county has a police department, and then each county we have a chapter. So Maui, Kauai, the Big Island, and then here in Honolulu. The chapters are important because these officers, as we shared before, if you're a member of SHOPO at the chapter level, you are an officer that's currently working. So it's important that those officers are there, they're boots on the ground, they understand what's specifically going on within their agency. Mm-hmm. And each chapter board has different amount of members, Honolulu obviously being the largest, followed up by Kauai at the back end of that. Coming up recently, we're having the Christmas parties coming up. We have... We just had, right, John? We just had the Big Islands yesterday, and Honolulu's is coming up on the 15th. It's a chance for the membership to get together and kind of have some fellowship. And it's also a chapter meeting. And then if there's any changes that need to be done with internal governance and stuff like that, it's covered as well.
I was delighted to be a part of 2 years ago.
Yep.
It was so great just to see all the families together, just having a great time. Questionable Santa Claus, though, but
yeah.
But it was good fun. It was such great fun.
You think you'd be able to make it? Did Honolulu Nick reach out to you this year?
Not
to put you on the spot. It's December 15th.
December 15th.
Maybe you could stop out.
Yeah, I leave for Seattle on the 21st.
Okay.
So yeah, I'd love to.
Yeah, we'll talk about that off air. I'm glad you brought that up.
Absolutely. Holiday parties already? Goodness gracious. Just on the island of Kauai, Kauai chapter, any top of mind or any issues, and just broad base pertaining to the other chapters?
So Bobby Thompson is our chair over on Kauai, and right now the union is working with the administration over there on some type of work-related schedule issues. We're talking about that as far as modifications and what kind of compromise we can come to with what the administration is looking for, and then what our membership is looking for. So top of mind over on Kauai is going to be work schedules for patrol.
Got it.
Yep.
And is that chapter-wide, statewide, or individual chapters?
So on Kauai right now, that's chapter related, but is we've talked about on your show before, the Honolulu chapter, we did end up switching. We reached an agreement with management here in HPD. We went with the modified 313 schedule, and then on Maui, there's also a pilot program with the 312 schedule. So that's top of mind right now, Rick, with the different county police departments as far as the working schedule.
I would like to kind of turn it over to the fellas here, because this past weekend was an auspicious time. Friday was the anniversary of the United States Marine Corps, and Saturday was official Veterans Day. I'd love to turn it over to you fellas before we take a traffic update, if you would like to share, because to me, Veterans Day is every day, but we formally recognize on November 11th. Anybody like to just jump on in? Messages for our veterans, thoughts on Veterans Day?
Yeah, I mean, so people, I think people forget and think it's just, okay, it's a holiday, I got a day off, or I don't have to go to work. But we need to remember we have the holiday, we have the day off, and we have our freedom because of the sacrifices these men and women gave for our country. So I think we need to get back to that. There's and the same thing for first responders and all that. People just take it for granted, the freedoms that they have because of what other people sacrifice.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think we need to step back and say thank you to these people for what they do for our freedom.
I think one of the things, too, I'll turn it over, gentlemen, is that you hit something on the head. You just assume there's always going to be people to serve and do this particular job and role of responsibility, and that's not necessarily true. Jump on in.
No, it's certainly not necessarily true. And what I like to express to the people out here listening is to just try to remember that it's a sacrifice that others are making for you, and to give them their thanks, to recognize what these men and women have sacrificed for you, and to, I guess, say, just show a little bit of grace and a little bit of compassion and patience. I know with its law enforcement is our main topic here, but
Yes.
We serve in our own way, and we do what we can for the public, and we sacrifice a lot. And all I can really ask in return is just a little bit of compassion and patience, especially when things get a little hectic out there.
Yeah. Very well put.
And Rick, I'll add this comment. The men and women that serve in our county police departments, they put the uniform on, the police uniform on, and they wear that with pride and honor. A lot of our members that put the police uniform on also put other uniforms on, whether that's Hawaii Guard, the Air Guard, whether they're a Coastie, whether they're in the Navy, whether in the Army, Marine Corps. These individuals have chose not only to wear a uniform representing the police department and serving at home, but they've made that courageous decision to really serve our country on a more global scale and wear a different uniform. I don't have the exact percentages, but there is a good amount of men and women throughout the counties that wear that police uniform that also have either in the past or are currently wearing one of the uniforms representing our armed forces.
Yeah. Very well put. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you so much indeed. Just short break for primetime traffic. Hey, we're back, and again, it's 7:18 in the morning here on News Radio 830 KHVH. Your telephone calls. We're delighted that Eddie out Kahala side is joining us. Eddie, thank you very much. You're on with the brothers in studio. Good morning.
Hi, thank you very much for having this hour with the SHOPO guys. This is question regarding an incident I had this weekend, and I'd like to ask for your response from the officers.
Mm-hmm.
I went into an establishment that sells, it was a liquor store, but I went in to go buy a non-alcoholic drink. I paid cash, and I used a certain type of American currency. And, because it's a mom and pop, I think he was the owner, I don't know, but the guy behind the counter refused my money. If I had walked out, and I gave exact change, if I had walked out with that drink, would that be considered theft?
What was the currency?
I used the gold presidential dollar coins.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He refused to take that.
Okay. So ultimately, what happened? Did you leave with the item, or?
Well, what ultimately happened was there was a gentleman behind me that recognized what I had,
Mm-hmm.
and of course, it's not counterfeit because I got it from the bank.
Oh, yeah.
He offered to pay with 2 $1 bills because the cost of the drink cost $2.04.
Mm-hmm.
So when I left $2 coins and 4 pennies,
Mm-hmm.
he refused. But because the guy behind me,
Yeah.
he changed the situation. But I'm just asking, if I had walked out and left with the drink, would that be considered theft?
All right. Well, thank you very much for your call. By the way, side note, if you have a $2 bill, hang on to it because those have gone up in value
I saw
a
that.
$1,000,000%.
Yes, I saw that.
John?
Yeah, so to answer the question, retail establishments have the right to refuse service, even if the reasoning is, excuse me, even if the reasoning is as silly as they don't want to accept a dollar coin. So if you had just taken that and left the money, it could be considered theft. Now, I can't tell you what's going to happen on the back end with the prosecutor's office or the courts. I can tell you my gut says that it probably wouldn't be accepted as a case, but you're going to give yourself a huge headache, a lot of legal problems. You might have to hire an attorney. It is not worth the cost. Realistically, my advice is buy your drink or whatever it is you're getting at another establishment. There's more than one place on this island that sells exactly what you're looking to buy. As silly as it is, they do have that right to refuse service, and it's just not worth your time. I would take your business elsewhere if that's how they're going to behave.
There we go.
Yeah.
Mark?
Yeah, private entity. They have, like John says, they have the right to refuse, and that's just the way it is. So.
Eddie, thanks for calling in and participating. And I could kind of hear in the tone of your voice some agitation, and I get it. This is obviously, I think, an issue of training the company that you went in to purchase that drink from, training the clerks a little bit better to recognize the different forms of currency. But to Johnny's point, I'm glad you kept your cool. I hope you wouldn't have taken the item, even if you left what you knew to be a legit American currency. It's just not worth it. I'm with John that let's say you did leave with the drink and you left the money and officers were called. At best, I think this case might be referred to the prosecutor's office. But to Johnny's point, it's not worth it over a Monster or whatever it is that you wanted to drink that day. And I commend you for maybe kind of keeping your cool. And I'm glad that the guy behind you had the wherewithal to kind of see what was going on, and you two can kind of make a impromptu friendship. And you got something to drink, and he got a cool currency, and everyone went on about the day.
I think what's a revelation is exactly what the three of you said. It's a private entity. If they do not want to serve or accept, they don't have to. Now, that's an actual legal standing, and we all have to understand that we don't have a right to be served. It is the option of the ownership and management. So,
Yeah.
good.
And the other thing I think all of us have experienced is, the workforce isn't the greatest out there right now. So, yeah, and it's really, really hard to get good help. And this could have been one of those instances. I don't know, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I know I've been very, very patient recently with the workforce out there.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just signs of the times, I guess. It's just.
But keeping cool,
Yeah, you got it.
that's got to be done. And I believe I can get fired up. I mean, Steve walks in the room, and I'm already from a 7 to an 11 of being on that scale.
I've seen that.
Yeah. So, but advice for being cool. That's something else. Can you advise to say, listen, we can all get into a situation where agitation can go on both sides. What advice would you give to quell that? Because there are many of us that don't have a natural inclination to do that. Kind of a swing thought, if you will, in interacting with others. John?
Yeah, I mean, if you're in that group of people that you cannot keep your mouth shut and you're just going to escalate the problem, the best thing you can do is just walk away from this situation, truthfully. Some people can keep their cool and have a conversation. That's most of our officers, I would say, are in that category, but it's not uncommon for especially when it's something that's really passionate or you're really passionate about, that you have a hard time keeping your mouth shut. That's natural for any person out there. And if you're in that category, walk away.
Yeah. Is there a legal arena for verbal, if you are utilizing language that is specific to somebody, that's laced with profanity and that's really amping up a situation? Is there a legal charge that can be issued or a complaint against another?
Potentially.
Okay.
So there's harassment statute. There's also disorderly conduct. Depending on the specifics of the situation, and those charges are not as clear as something as assault or theft. Those are pretty clear cut what those are. But when it comes to harassment or even disorderly conduct, if the behavior is so egregious that it's going to create a fight or disturb the peace, then those are charges that the police have an option to pursue.
I got that.
Yep.
I'm going to go to Mark for a second. In all your years, when you would have encounters, and I'm certain there is citizen to citizen. What if it's turned on an officer and it's virulently, just over the border of aggressiveness and language? How do you diffuse, or what are the options that you would have?
It takes a lot of patience. Let's put it that way, right? But if they're coming after us, we're trained in a way where, hey, we got to protect ourselves. Let's face it, we're not punching bags either out there, So, but we're going to do whatever we can to defuse the situation. We don't want to get in a scuffle out there. We don't want to get into arresting these people if we don't have to, right? But we will defuse as much as we can. But if they're going to come after us, they're going to come after us physically. We're going to do whatever we have to do, right? Yeah. Verbally, we get every single day these guys are taking verbal abuse. Every single day. That's just part of the job, right? The public has no idea what these men and women of the Honolulu Police Department take every single day of the public coming after us verbally. Wow. It's egregious.
So there's a next step to that. I don't mean to be, if you're encountering someone that is overhyped and aggressive, and they take the next step, say spitting on an officer, is that an offense that has a consequence, Brother Steve?
Sure. So let me circle back and then I'll answer this one. So two citizens are getting into something. Here's my advice. 2 words. Stop talking. Stop talking. You had said how things escalate. Right. Things escalate verbally. If you are getting into something with someone in the public, just stop talking. It's easier said than done, but if you stop talking, you don't give ammunition to the person that's yelling back at you. If you stop talking, it actually throws them off, and then maybe they'll stop talking, and then you two just walk away and go your separate ways. Now let's get into Copland. In Copland, those that wear the badge and the uniform, we don't have the privilege of walking away. If we were called to a situation, we now are there to try to solve it and create a solution, preferably without force, preferably without an arrest. So police officers in all the different counties are trained to interact. One, be good listeners, because if you're not a good listener, you can't process what's going on. So cops need to be good listeners. Then they're gonna use whatever verbal skills they have. Now, spitting on an officer, is that acceptable? Absolutely not. Depending on how that officer feels, if it's in the face, again, there's harassment on police officer, meaning you did something that didn't cause the officer pain, but it caused them to feel a certain way about that. I said on the show last week, touching an officer's uniform in any kind of aggressive way, spitting on an officer, that's not acceptable. As a patrol supervisor, if there's something that individual can go to jail for, that's what's going to happen. Yeah. But ideally, when officers come on scene, Rick, if it's just an argument type of thing, we want to diffuse the situation. We want to make sure everybody is safe. We're not looking to take everybody to jail. Things happen. But just like in your personal life with your significant other, things start to go sideways. You're out in public. Stop talking. Yeah. Just be quiet, and just that quietness can tone certain things down, unless you're dealing with somebody that's intoxicated or on drugs, and then that's a whole other rabbit hole because those people don't know when to shut up.
But the citizen v. citizen, at some point, if one of the two truly believes that the language used, the volume, and all that is an actual threat, then it's walk away. You got to run away. You have to leave. But if there's an engagement and an individual reacts and says, listen, I feel threatened right now if I don't diffuse this, or if he's encroaching upon his space, his area, that, all right, I got to defend myself in any way I can.
Let me give you an example. You're at the gas pump. Rick Hamada's pumping gas, and somebody recognizes you at immediate personality, and they start yelling profanities at you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? But they're just yelling profanities while you're filling the gas. Rick Hamada stops pumping gas, gets in his car, drives away. It's diffused. Rick Hamada, different scenario. Rick Hamada is pumping gas, guy's yelling profanities at you, and he's walking towards you.
Mm-hmm.
And as he's walking towards you, he says something like, I'm going to kick your this, and I'm going to do that. Okay, now things are getting a little bit more serious because he's throwing out some threats, correct?
Yeah.
Directly at you. Now, if you can get away, that's fine. But let's say your car's locked. You can't get in the keys, and he's right up in your person. And I know you've asked this question before. You need to try to retreat. But if you cannot, then you have to defend yourself, Rick.
Yeah. But if that's going to happen, you have to be very cognizant of details of, correct? Because you're going to have to, under oath, at some point, explain yourself.
The best friend you're going to have at that gas station, this analogy that I'm making up, is the cameras.
Yeah.
The cameras are that unbiased witness that's there, which is why video, as we've talked about on the program, is so important in all kinds of investigation, because it's like that unbiased witness. Now, not that video, again, can show the totality of everything,
Sure,
but it's helpful.
Just don't do it. I mean, guys, there are, and I'm talking guys listening, just don't get involved because, I had an incident with a hit and run thing, and what a mess. Just a total mess. You want to avoid anything that you can while still making sure that you and your family is safe. And there we go.
There you go.
How do we connect with SHOPO, Steve?
Sure. Rick, please come visit us at shopohawaii.org. Again, shopohawaii.org. From that platform, you can reach us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
And we're going to be back with the fellas, and we hope that you will join us. It is the SHOPO Hour. Welcome back. It is the SHOPO Hour. Anything on your mind at 521-8383. But talking with the fellas during the break, this is going to be interesting. Started with mopeds, but then it came into all of the pedigrees of what used to be just a little, and now we're overrun with motorized everything. The shoes. I have Under Armour motorized shoes now, and I don't need to do anything. Brother John, would you mind setting the table for us of just how expansive all these different vehicles are?
Yeah, so, I mean, over the last, probably the last 2-3 years, we've seen a huge increase in the number of motorized type vehicles out there. Electric bikes, electric scooters, one wheel, 2 wheels, 3 wheels, all kinds of stuff left and right. The old style transportation for a single individual trying to get around town was a moped, right? If you all remember that, it was always a moped. But now we're seeing all kinds of stuff, and in a lot of ways they're more dangerous because they're much more mobile than mopeds. They're driving in and out of traffic, going all over the place. And then from the theft side of things, where I work primarily, we're seeing a huge increase in thefts, especially of electric bikes.
Yeah, but the incursion of these, and I'll just go from a automobile driver's standpoint, it's treacherous out there at times because there's the sheer number. I don't know do you get a license? You don't need a license? Any way to regulate, to control, to ensure that people know what the heck they're doing on these things, because the potential for very bad things is apparent.
Rick, I would agree with you. And at the county level, as far as enforcement goes, we have laws that pertain to mopeds, right, and bicycles, and they're licensed. You have stickers and this kind of thing. Like Johnny was talking about with these motorized skateboards, the uniwheel things, all the stuff that we were talking about. The officers, we don't really have the tools yet to take any type of enforcement against what you're describing.
Yeah,
it's not in the wheelhouse yet for us to do enforcement. And in all fairness, this kind of came on quick to Johnny's point, but as a community, we really need to come together. And if we need to put some type of regulations on these things, and again, I'm not big on regulations, but to your point, I've been in traffic maybe like you guys have, and all of a sudden you're looking in the bike lane and you see a skateboard that's going 40 miles an hour because it has a motor on it. Or how about you're next to a pedal bike guy who's not riding next to the curb and he's taken up an entire bike lane, yet his bicycle that has pedals is actually motorized and he's going as fast as you are. So
Yeah.
we definitely need to address this, I think. And again, from a police standpoint, we need to be able to get some tools that if enforcement is necessary, we need to be able to do that. And right now, unless it's a bicycle, a pedal bike, or a moped, there is nothing that allows us to really do any type of enforcement action specifically against, like Johnny was saying, the two wheels,
Yeah.
the one wheels, the scooters, the all kinds of stuff.
Brother Mark.
From what I understand, these electric bikes, I think you just register them like a regular bicycle. I don't know. That's what I understand. However, they're not a regular bike. These things fly. They go fast, and people are getting hurt.
Yeah.
The people are crashing on them, and people are getting seriously hurt with these things. So I'm like Steve. I'm not into regulation. I'm not into government overlooking a lot of stuff, but they need to get on top of this, especially for these bikes that are flying out there.
We're going to go to Kauai, and JoJo joins us today. And JoJo, thank you very much for your call. You're on the SHOPO Hour. Good morning.
Good morning and aloha. Happy Thanksgiving. Yeah, I have a question about self-defense.
Yes.
Yeah, let's say we're in a kill or be killed situation. Do you think those aggressors need another chance?
Dude, I didn't understand a word you said.
I think you
Could
said if
do
he
it
was
now?
in a killed or be killed situation.
Yeah, could you repeat it for all of us, please?
Yeah, well, I don't know. It's just that, people do bad stuff, but, sometimes they just...
No. What was your question, JoJo, please? So we're clear on what the question is, please.
Yeah, my question is like in a situation that kill or be killed,
Okay.
those aggressors, do you think they need another chance, second chance?
Okay. Thank you very much. Maybe you can interpret for me, kill or be killed. I don't know exactly what second chance would be.
That's a pretty direct scenario. But yeah, if it's JoJo or a stranger that's attacking him with a knife and he's got no choice, then yeah, JoJo, do what you need to do. We want you to stick around. But again, as we said, JoJo, on the program before, you would need to articulate that was the last resort that you had to defend yourself. You couldn't run away. You were under attack. And then you would need to be able to justify. And hopefully if that happened, maybe there were some independent witnesses that could back up your version of events. But listen, you want to go home to your family at the end of the day. You do what you need to do to handle business, and you sort it out after the fact. But again, violence, as we've said, should be the last resort, especially, when it comes to using a firearm or anything like that. And again, there's a duty to retreat. So if all that is off the table and all you have is it's a kill or be killed situation, not to be too graphic, then yeah, you're the one that you don't want to be underground, so do what you need to do.
There's a story that emanated, and I'll go to traffic in a moment, that a young girl in a Costco parking lot, there was an attempted abduction. Stranger approached the vehicle. She thought it was somebody she knew. She unlocked the door. Individual tried to seize her. She was able to stave him off. These types of incidents that actually make the news we're aware of. How pervasive is the predator and the prey of children? How pervasive is that in our community?
Part of our duties every day is to check through what we call highlights, and it's just a general list of the major crimes and things going on that we want to make sure that every officer is aware of. Typically, things, major accidents, kidnappings, murders, all the big high-profile cases. Cases like this, I would say, are not very common, but they make news, and it makes it seem like there's a lot of it going around. Not to say that we shouldn't be careful and always be mindful of our surroundings and stuff. That's something I teach my own kids. I have 3 little ones myself. But I wouldn't go around every day fearful that I'm going to get kidnapped or my kid's going to get kidnapped. It's not as common as it might seem.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Brother Mark?
Like John said, not common, but however, when something like this does happen, it does it is alarming, right? Because it doesn't happen. It's not something that happens often. So we're living in different times now. Let's face it, right? It's you got to be aware of your surroundings. You gotta tell your kids what to not do and not do. And a lot of people leave their kids in the car, right? Go into the store real fast, but
Not this guy.
yeah, well, a lot of people do, right? I mean,
I know.
It's amazing what people do out there, but you gotta give your family a plan. That's just part of life now. You got to give your family a plan, a plan A, a plan B. That's just life.
Well, thankfully, and I believe she was 14, and she was able, as I said, stave off. Advice to parents in instructing their children what to do if they're confronted with a situation like this. John?
Well, I mean, speaking of this situation, her fighting her way off and getting away, obviously that you got to get away. That's the first thing. But a lot of kids, and I've seen it, especially with younger ones, will run and hide. And what they should be doing is getting to a safe place, find a trusted adult, whether it's your parents, grandparents, a police officer, firefighter, ambulance tech, but a trusted adult, and getting a report out there quickly, because the sooner we get a police response to this, the more likely we are to actually track down who's doing this and catch them.
Mm-hmm. Brother Steve.
I don't mean to go down a different rabbit hole, but this just came up, and John made a great point. For those parents out there, grandparents, when you see us in our uniform, please don't say to your grandbaby or your child, if you don't behave, I'm going to call the police, because what it does, it creates that the little kid should be in fear of us. Ideally, if you have little ones that meet officers in uniform, try to make it a positive experience, because to Johnny's point, if those little ones are in need, we want them to feel comfortable to approach the officer and not feel that the officer can only be approached in like if they're bad. Because a lot of times parents joke, right? Hey, if you don't behave yourself or you don't do this, I'm going to call the police and they're going to arrest you. And I get it, and it's cute and stuff like that. But to John's point, if we want to create the relationship with that young child that, hey, the police are safe, you can go to them, you might want to be careful before you kind of put that in their head.
Final thought, Mark?
Yeah. Same thing. I mean, you got to have your kids tell them the police is on their side. How many times that I'm in a store when I was working in uniform, better watch out. He's going to come take you to jail. No, not in today's day and age. We got to be their friends.
Do parents really say that to their kids?
Oh yeah, all the time.
Every day.
And they don't. And they listen. You know what? It's harmless. They mean it. You know what it is? It's a way to kind of break the ice and kind of get us to talk. But it does happen, and it happens actually quite a bit.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing. 7:50 in the morning here on News Radio 830 KHVH. Pat, hold on for a moment. Got to get this traffic update in. Time flying by as it always does with the SHOPO Hour. Brother Mark, Brother Steve, Brother John, giving mad praise and shout out to Brother Nick and Brother Bobby as well, and to you, our most Akamaya friends. Let's go to Pat and another call. And Pat Palolo, thank you for your call. You're on the SHOPO Hour. Very good morning.
Good morning. I was wondering, you guys brought up, those trusted individuals. Do any of you remember McGruff trucks?
Yep, just mentioned that. Yeah, absolutely.
So I missed that part. So I was wondering if maybe should we start a McGruff truck campaign back up? I haven't seen those trucks in years, and that went further than just your ambulance techs and police, but like even the linesmen that worked for Hawaiian Telecom and the cable guys, Spectrum, those were all those trusted individuals, not just, our regular known first responders.
Excellent point. Excellent call. Good follow-up to this discussion that we've had. And I believe, Brother Steve, you even invoked
We actually,
the whole team here.
Yeah, brother, thanks for your call. I appreciate it. And it's funny, on the break, I had just brought that up. I said, it wasn't just first responders. It was the McGruff trucks. It was the guys, like you said, the linesmen with the power company, the Spectrum guys with the cable company. I'm all for that. I think it's a great idea. Anything that gives kids an out or a safe place, bro. I appreciate the comments, and I support that. And I don't know how that gets back into play, but I remember stickers on the trucks, like the McGruff trucks. Yeah. And I don't know if that's being taught in the elementary schools at this moment, but hey, man, anything to keep the kids safe. And, I'm sure those individuals are solid guys. So whether it's the cable guys or the guys working on the power side or the telecom, right, Mark?
Yeah. We were just talking about that. And then, like Steve says, I remember those stickers on the trucks, I
do too.
So,
right. Is there outreach to our schools? Do we have a concentrated effort to really bring this kind of information to students? And is the DOE, private schools, are they accommodating of HPD to do so?
Yeah, actually, we do reach out to the schools quite a bit. We have, obviously the DARE program is still around. There's our community policing teams. In fact, the SSD was down at my child's school just last week, and that's of course, it's a private school, so it's not even in the public system. So they're in all the schools, and it's definitely out there. Waipahu High School has a lot of involvement with HPD, and they have several programs too as well. Nice. That they teach with different students there. So there is involvement. It just depends on which school and how involved the administrators at the schools want to be. We primarily go into the schools by invitation.
Right.
Just a couple programs. You have the DARE program, which talks about drug awareness. You have the JPO program, which is real popular. We also have the Say Hi's. When I rode the motorcycles for the department, like Johnny was saying, the SWAT boys, the motorcycles, the sub guys from the traffic division would show up. This is more for the younger kids. The KK, the kindergartners, the school reaches out. It's called the Say Hi. They get to sit on the bikes, sit on the cars. So there are things where relationships are built at a younger age, and then as the kids get a little bit older with that DARE program and the JPO, which is kind of like military drills and that kind of thing, just to keep them engaged. So there are definitely programs, Rick, out there, and they're being used definitely in Honolulu County, and I would like to think probably other counties as well.
So recruitment has been top of mind with all of us, and even when Chief is on Thursdays, we try and really advance that notion. In your day-to-day, when you mention, have you thought about being a police officer? Have you thought about a career with HPD? Have you ever, etc.? When you interact with folks with that preface, what kind of response do you receive, either from school-age kids up to young adults or others that might have a career change? Any type of replies and feedback that you glean from those exchanges?
Well, with children in the schools, everybody wants to be a police officer at one point in their life. Most don't carry that into adulthood. Yeah. Less common with adults. A lot of adults are more worried about the dangers associated with it, especially with the political atmosphere around police. We're not looked at well nationwide, even though we're out there doing a public service in the best interest as best as we can. But most of the interest we get tends to come from the younger ages. The hard part is keeping those kids interested into adulthood, right, and then also making sure that they make wise choices so that they can qualify. We have a lot of applicants. A lot of them, the vast majority, aren't even qualified because of a variety of reasons, up to and including criminal activity or personal situations with the spouse. Right.
Interesting.
Rick, we've always been very candid on this program.
Yes.
The truth of the matter is there is a crisis right now within our profession. We are at a critical level where we are having more people retire from law enforcement than we are having start our career. It's not just specific to the departments here in Hawaii and the different counties. This is a national, very unfortunate and dangerous trend. You have agencies that are 20, 30, 40% understaffed. And again, we could have a whole show on this, not to get too deep in the weeds, but there is a recruitment crisis with people not wanting to get into the law law enforcement profession, whether it's that definitely at the local and state level. I can't speak to federal. I'm not in that world, but I can tell you at the state, whether it's state police, local police, the county sheriff, they're in crisis mode. And because we're in crisis mode, we are now actually competing against ourselves to try to get good qualified applicants.
Mark, final thought.
The thing I noticed the most about guys leaving the profession is when they're eligible to leave, they're leaving. Whereas before they would stay maybe another 5, 6, 7 years. But if, let's say, retirement's 25 and out, they're going out at 25. That's the biggest difference I've seen in the last few years, is guys are going out when they can.
On that note, I cannot thank you fellas, as always, enough. Brother John, good to see you again.
Good to see you.
Good to see you. Brother Steve?
Rick, appreciate
Brother Mark? No.
Wow. Rick.
See you in a few weeks.
How's this guy over here with the DNO?
That's what I'm saying.
Oh, man.
Have a good one.